Hey there, welcome back to Living Inspired with Autism. I'm Antoinette and I'm a life coach for parents of autism. My main objective is to empower you to be the best version of yourself. And I'm so glad you are here. Today, we're going to be talking about something that we all deal with as parents of autism, something that keeps you up at night and creates this constant hum of stress in your body and makes you wonder if you're ever going to feel like you have your life together. And we're talking about disruptions or imbalance. And here's what I want you to know right from the start. Disruption is not a sign that you're failing. It's not evidence that you can't handle your life. And it's definitely not something you need to wait to disappear before you can finally feel okay. In fact, I'm going to teach you how to use disruptions as fuel, how to become more powerful, more grounded, and more alive inside of it. Because disruptions are coming whether you like it or not. So think about, we've just been through this. Snow days, there's sickness, we have financial strains, maybe your kiddos have the meltdowns in the grocery store, and of course, autism itself. Now, some of these disruptions are circumstantial, temporary disruptions that you can't control. Some of them are chronic. For example, autism isn't going anywhere. And what most parents do is they resist it, they fight it, they whoosh it away, they exhaust themselves trying to make it stop. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could choose chronic disruptions and happiness, financial pressure and peace, autism demands and your own dreams? Not some day when things get easier, right now, in the middle of it. That's what we're diving in today. So let's start by getting clear on what we're actually dealing with, because not all disruptions are created equal. There are circumstantial disruptions. These are things like snow days, sickness, unexpected financial hits, therapies being cancelled, your car breaking down. These are temporary disruptions. They throw you off balance, they throw you off your rhythm, they require you to pivot, but they have an expiration date. Then there are chronic disruptions, things like autism itself, caring for aging parents, managing a chronic health condition, or living in debt that you are going to be paying down for years to come. These don't have an expiration date. They're part of your life for the foreseeable future. And here's what most parents get stuck on. They treat both types of disruptions the same. They resist them. They think, once this is over, then I'll feel balanced. Then I'll be able to breathe. Then I'll finally have my life together. But with chronic disruptions, there is no once this is over. So you end up in this exhausting holding pattern, waiting for the finish line that just doesn't exist. And I want to offer you a completely different way to think about this. What if these disruptions, both circumstantial and chronic, weren't the enemy? What if they were actually the teacher? What if the question wasn't, how do I make this stop? But who do I get to become inside of this? Okay, stay with me here. Let's talk about circumstantial disruptions first, because this one's a little easier to wrap our heads around. So picture this. You've got your week planned, which is exactly what happened to me a couple of weeks ago. You've got your appointment schedules, your work calls are on your calendar, everything's lined up, and then you wake up to a foot of snow. School's cancelled, everything's cancelled. Your entire day just imploded. And your brain immediately goes into crisis mode. I can't afford to lose this day. I have so much to do. This is going to throw everything off. And you spend your entire snow day stressed and resentful and trying to work while your kiddo's at home. And you're feeling guilty because you're not present. You're feeling frustrated because you're not getting anything done. Sound familiar? So here's what I want you to consider. That stress, that resentment, that guilt, none of it is coming from the snow day itself. It's coming from your resistance to the snow day. The circumstance is neutral. Snow fell, school closed, that's it. Everything else, the spiral, the overwhelm, the feeling like your life is falling apart, that's all optional. Now, I'm not saying that you should be happy about it. I'm not asking you to pretend it's not inconvenient. What I'm saying is you get to choose who you are in this moment. And I had to choose. I got coaching on this myself. You can be the version of you who collapses into victimhood and resentment and stress, or you can be the version of you who says, okay, this is what's happened. What do I want to do with this day? Maybe you decide to make go of work entirely and build a fort with your kiddo. Maybe you decide to put on a movie and knock out one critical task. Maybe you embrace the slowness and make hot chocolate and give yourself permission to rest. The point is, you are choosing. You're not being dragged through the day by your resistance. And the beautiful part, when you stop resisting circumstantial disruptions, you build a skill that serves you for life. You train your nervous system to handle disruption without collapsing. You teach your brain that unexpected doesn't mean catastrophic. And you model for your kiddos what it looks like to be flexible and grounded and powerful, even when things don't go according to plan. That's using disruption as fuel. Okay, so let's now talk about chronic disruptions. Now, this is the harder one. This is the one that doesn't have an expiration date. For all of us, that chronic disruption is autism. Your child isn't going to grow out of autism. They're still going to have the sensory needs, the communication challenges, the meltdowns, the accommodations. They're part of your life indefinitely. Maybe it will get a little bit easier, maybe not. And if you approach this in the same way you approach a circumstantial disruption, waiting for it to be over, wishing it would change, resisting what is, you will suffer deeply, unnecessarily, because chronic disruptions don't respond to resistance. It just sits there, unmoved, while you exhaust yourself fighting it. So what's the alternative? You decide who you're going to be inside of it. Not someday when things get easier, not after you've fixed your child or found the perfect thing or finally figured it all out. Right now, in the middle of the hard. So let me give you an example. I was working with a mom who had been in survival mode for probably about 5 years, and her son was nonverbal, and he had intense sensory needs, and he also required constant supervision. And she told me, I just need him to talk. And once he can communicate, I'll feel okay. Then I can breathe. And I asked her, but what if he never talks? What if this is your life? Loving him, supporting him, advocating for him, and he never speaks a word. Are you going to spend your entire life waiting to feel okay? Of course, she started crying because she realized that's exactly what she'd been doing. She'd been putting her peace, her happiness, her sense of okayness on hold, waiting for the future that might never come. And in the meantime, she was missing the life that she actually had. So we did some work, deep work, and she made a decision. She decided, I am going to love my life and my son might never speak again. I am going to feel happiness, and autism is part of our family. I am going to pursue my dreams and care for my child. Not I'll feel happiness once he speaks. Not I'll pursue my dreams once things get easier. She chose both right now in the disruption. And you know what happened? Everything changed. Her circumstances were still the same. Her son still didn't speak. The caretaking was still exhausting. The meltdown still happened, but she changed. She stopped resisting, she stopped waiting, and she started living. That's what chronic disruption requires from us, a fundamental shift in who we're deciding to be. Now let's talk about what resistance actually costs you. Because I think if you really understood the price you're paying, you'd stop doing it immediately. When you resist these disruptions, when you spend your energy wishing it wasn't happening, thinking it shouldn't be this hard, waiting for it to change, you multiply your suffering. The disruption itself is hard. There is no question about that. But the resistance to it, that's where the pain lives. It's the difference between carrying a 50-pound backpack and carrying a 50-pound backpack while also complaining about how heavy it is, wishing someone would take it from you and resenting everyone who doesn't have to carry one. The weight doesn't change, but your experience of it does. Resistance drains your energy, keeps you stuck in a loop of resentment and victimhood. It prevents you from seeing solutions. It destroys your presence with your family. Now, it doesn't change the circumstances, not even a little bit. So what if you just stopped? What if you just said, okay, this is my life. Autism is here. Financial strain is here. Sleep deprivation is here. This is what I'm working with. Now what? When you stop resisting, you free up an enormous amount of energy. Energy that you can use to solve problems, to create happiness, to be present, to take care of yourself, to show up powerfully. That's the shift I'm inviting you into. So let's talk about the concept of both and, because this is where the real magic happens. Most of us have been conditioned to think in either or. Either I take care of my child or I take care of myself. Either I work or I'm present with my family. Either I accept autism or I pursue interventions. Either I feel stressed or I feel peaceful. But that's not actually true. You can choose both. You can take care of your child and take care of yourself. You can work and be present with your family. You can accept autism and pursue growth for your child. You can acknowledge that this is hard and choose to feel peaceful inside of it. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't pretending things are fine when they're not. This is strategic. It's saying I'm not going to wait for one thing to be resolved before I allow myself to experience the other. So let me give you an example. When Max was younger, I was in a really tough financial spot, and we were living on a very tight budget, trying to afford all the things. And I felt this constant low-grade panic about money. And I kept telling myself, once we're financially stable or I had more money, then I'll relax, then I'll enjoy life. But one day I realized, what if that takes years? Am I really going to put my life on hold for years? So I made the decision. I am going to feel financially stressed and worry about money, and I am going to create happiness in my life. And I started doing things. We read stories. We played on the swing. We did things okay. They were not completely free, but we did drives to the country and cheap weekends away. I stopped waiting for financial ease to give myself permission to enjoy my life. And you know what? The financial stress didn't magically disappear, but my experience of it completely changed. I wasn't suffering anymore. I was actually living. That's the power of both. Here's a question for you. Who are you deciding to become in this disruption? Not who you'll be once it's over, who you're choosing to be right now, in the middle of this. Because circumstantial disruptions are going to come and go. Chronic disruptions are staying. But who are you inside of it? Now that is entirely up to you. You can be the version of you who collapses, who resents, who waits for relief, or you could be the version of you who rises, who adapts, who finds power in the hard. Let me tell you what I've learned about myself through disruptions. I've learned that I am capable of so much more than I thought. I've learned that I can handle sleep deprivation and financial stress and constant demands of autism and still show up with love. I've learned that my peace doesn't depend on my circumstances being easy. And I've learned that the version of me who can hold all of this, she's someone I'm really proud of. That's who I'm becoming in the disruption. So I want to ask you, who do you want to become? Do you want to be the parent who lets autism define their entire identity, who shrinks their dreams, who lives in resentment? Or do you want to be the parent who holds autism and their own life, who expands instead of contracts, who models resilience for their children? You get to choose. Every single day, you get to choose. Let's get practical, because I know some of you are thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do this? So here are some tools that you can start using today. Firstly, name the disruption. Get specific. Is it circumstantial or is it chronic? If it's circumstantial, remind yourself that it has an expiration date. If it's chronic, remind yourself that resistance won't change it, but who you are inside of it will. Secondly, catch your resistance. Notice when you're thinking, this shouldn't be happening, or I can't handle this, or why is this so hard for me? Those are resistance thoughts. They're optional, and replace them with, this is happening, I can handle this, and this is hard, and I'm capable. Number 3, choose your identity. Ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? The version of me who collapses or the version of me who rises? Then act from that identity, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Number 4, practice both. Every time you catch yourself in an either-or thinking, just pause and ask, how can both be true? How can I hold space for both realities at once? Number 5, give yourself credit. You are handling so much more than most people could ever imagine. You're showing up, you're doing the work. Acknowledge that, celebrate that. You don't have to wait for everything to be perfect to be proud of yourself. Listen, I know this is hard, and I know you're tired, and I know you're carrying more than most people see. And I know there are days when it just feels like it's too much. But I also know this, you are capable of so much more than you realize. You don't have to wait for disruption to disappear to feel okay. You don't have to wait for things to get easier to choose happiness. You don't have to wait for autism to be managed to live a life that you love. You can choose both right now in the middle of the mess. And when you do, things start happening. because your circumstances don't magically improve, but because you become someone who doesn't need them to. That's the power of using disruptions as fuel. So if you're ready to go deeper into this work, if you're ready to stop waiting and start living, I want to invite you to join me for my free live masterclass. And this isn't about managing autism better, and it's not just about coping. This is about becoming the version of you who doesn't need perfect circumstances to feel powerful. We can be talking about your nervous system regulation, emotional capacity, how to lead your family from a place of strength instead of survival, and a lot more. It's happening live, and I promise you, this will be the most practical, no-nonsense, transformative training that you've ever experienced. You'll find the link down in the show notes, so save your seat. It's called Regulated, Resourced, and Ready Masterclass. I can't wait to see you there. All right, until next time, you've got this, even when it doesn't feel like it, especially when it doesn't feel like it. We'll talk soon.